Our society has the basics of the economy, the very basics, upside down. Society has sacrificed all its spiritual values on the chopping block of obsessive trade, rampant consumerism, perversion of justice, and abuse of creation. That's quite a charge. The place where we can look at this is an online discussion workbook called Radical Grace in the Economy. It identifies 9 basic spiritual values that our economic culture denies, ignores, and replaces with the most profane of substitutes. The workbook examines these spiritual values that get denied or downplayed in everyday cultural discourse and sets us up to discuss several aspects of each one. We'll give you some examples shortly. You'll find it is online at radicalgrace.ca. You'll see a QR code here at the bottom right. You can point your camera at that and it'll pop up. We'll get down to the discussion questions that make up the workbook in a moment, but first a comment on perspective. You'll notice a Christian orientation, but not just any Christian. I'm a Franciscan in the Anglican tradition, and I'm also connected with indigenous spiritual traditions. So you'll find both of these sensibilities in this workbook. But its ideas are consistent with a wider body of spiritual traditions. If you're from another spiritual tradition, feel free to read the workbook with an eye to how your tradition might express the same ideas. And let us know. Now, on with the content. It's called Radical Grace in the Economy. And first we'll take a look at the full set of modules, 9 of them. They're about spiritual issues that are denied or ignored in conventional ways of thinking. These spiritual issues that get denied are denial of grace, denial of vocation, denial of abundance, denial of community, denial of the individual, denial of the humble, denial of justice, denial of Mother Earth, denial of entitlement. We only have the time here to examine 4 of them. You'll have to grab the workbook to see the rest. The first module, Denial of Grace, challenges conventional ideas about fair trade. What could be a higher ideal than fair trade, where everybody gives as much as they get? It's a universal value, isn't it? Okay, here we'll track the Christian version. Christ never said, give as much as you get. Christ just said, give, just for the sake of giving. It's about what we call grace. And his followers in those early days took it seriously. With everybody in giving mode, they make sure everybody gets what they need. Well, there's lots for the workbook to discuss here. What's so bad about fairness anyway? What happens when some people are in giving mode but most are in taking mode? Is this going to work? Was Christ being naive? The discussion questions go further than that. Remember, we're going to cover the Franciscan perspective as well as the indigenous perspectives on these issues. What would they say about it? What do we think about that? What can any of us do about it? And we go further into social and cultural strategies. Can we create social policies that give the strongest incentives to people of grace? Can we be a cultural influence in an era of unfair trade, not even fair trade? What direction are we moving in? The second module is denial of vocation. That one's challenging. Well, before we tackle that, vocation is a tricky word. Doesn't it mean trade school, vocational school? Well, yeah, it's been bent out of shape to mean that sometimes. But vocation comes from a Latin word that means to call, vocare. Vocation really means what you're called to do. Mainstream economists will tell you you're called to consume stuff, and that's it. And they say the market is the best way to get stuff. So sit back and let the market work its wonders for you, and you'll be satisfied with all your stuff. Well, is having more stuff your personal calling in life? Maybe that is what you're personally called to do. But some people think their calling in life isn't to have stuff, but to do stuff. They're not called to wallow in a sinkhole of more and more stuff. They're called to take action, to discern what they're called to do and act on it. Now here we needn't limit ourselves to a Christian calling, even though the workbook is set in that context. When we talk about your calling, the way we commonly do, we're talking about the mission in life that some higher value calls you to follow. That can come from the Creator, from Allah, from Vishnu, or from the principle of universal love. It's a broad concept. As you read the workbook, think about how you would express it. One of the chief workbook questions is, how on earth did we get to this state of obsessive consumerism? How can we reach out to those who might vaguely understand the emptiness of it? Or is that a lost cause? How do you explain calling? What makes indigenous culture less consumption-oriented? And what can we learn from that? How can we take on the all-powerful marketing industry? We now skip to Module 6, Denial of the Humble. Here's where we've really got it upside down. Who are they who sit at the top end of society? The obscenely wealthy, the capital hoarders, the oligarchs. They're at the top of the hierarchy of different levels of wealth and privilege. And then there are those at the bottom. But what you find in Christian scripture are ideas like, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And then, what you have done for the least of these, you have done for me. The least, the people at the bottom, the most marginalized, take care of them first. Elevate them first. Imagine the discussion questions we can get out of this. That's so totally upside down that it's way beyond our reach. Or is it? Yet it constitutes an absolutely key demand of Christ. So then how can we possibly pull that off? What kind of revolution is it? And will the rich and privileged allow it? Where do we even start? Or is it just a pipe dream? Is there a halfway? Enjoy the discussion. We can't do all the modules here, so let's end with Module 8, Denial of Mother Earth. That's a favorite among participants in this workbook. What do mainstream economists, the narrow kind who manage economies and manipulate world trade, have to say about the land? It's just there, a pile of resources waiting for us to exploit, a factor of production in the vernacular. It's what we need to fuel the consumer economy. Drill, baby, drill. Well, do we have a contrast here to look at? I like to look at what indigenous culture has to say about that, those who are true to their ancient culture. And I like to introduce it with the phrase, the land is family. We don't say Mother Earth for nothing. The land is part of the family, the big family, the whole family, together with animal life, plant life, the living ecosystem of the soil. As a Franciscan, I like a prayer from Francis of Assisi, a prayer to Brother Dirt. We're all in it together. We strive for all the parts of the family to work together to nurture each other as a unit. What a contrast, and what an overflowing well of discussion questions. It's a rich field because more and more people are catching on and struggling to nurture the economy for fear of climate change. But is that good enough? Are we just trying to save our sorry hides from self-imposed destruction? Maybe we deserve it. Or should we really shift gears and actually honor Mother Earth and all her family? How do we bring people along to that positive perspective? How can we work with indigenous culture to find our home in our larger family of creation? How do we straddle the cultural clash and work for Mother Earth in a zone of conflict? Lots to figure out with some urgency. So there you have it, at least parts of it. To see it all, you'll have to go to the workbook itself at radicalgrace.ca. Either way, feel absolutely free to try the workbook out. It's a PDF file, downloadable in the usual manner. It's not mine, it's yours. Have fun.